He is a three-time Super Bowl champion from the New England Patriots. Most career postseason sacks in NFL history with 16. He is Willie McGinest. How are you, Willie?
How you doing, Rich?
Great to chat with you. Willie McGinest here on the Rich Eisen Show. How do you term yourself? What adjective would you use to describe your feelings that Tom Brady is now a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, Willie?
I'm excited for Tom. I'm definitely excited for Tom. I was selfishly wanting him to retire as a Patriot. Of course, a lot of us didn't get the opportunity to do that, Rich. Very few. I think Troy Brown, Teddy Bruschi, the guys from the original clan, didn't really get that opportunity. But, things happen. It's a new adventure for Tom. I'm excited for him, man. I'm happy for him, and we'll see what happens, man. It's going to be interesting.
So obviously your circumstance is different from Tom's, but what can you tell Brady about putting on a different uniform for the first time, like when you grabbed that Browns helmet and Browns uniform for the first time? Willie, what do you think is going to go through his head when he does that for Tampa?
Well, I think the one thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a standard. As soon as he walks through the door, everybody's going to expect a certain standard. If you know Tom and you know the way he's worked in the last 20 years and his expectations, his work ethic, all the different characteristics about him, going into a different building, everybody might not initially be on the same page. And as a player coming from somewhere like that, people are going to want to know everything about what it takes to be a champion. How do you guys continuously and consistently play at a high level, all the tricks, all the different things? And I think that's a great thing. One thing that I found with myself when I went to Cleveland, I didn't want to always say, you got to do it like this, fellas, because we did it like this in New England. That can turn guys off. What I wanted to do was lead by example and just lead through my actions. And I think Tom's going to be the same way. He's never going to discuss the past. He doesn't do that now in New England about previous championships or games or any of that, unless it's relevant to something that's about to happen now. He's going to focus on the future, but he's just going to lead the way with his actions on how to do certain things. And if guys inquire or talk or want to know certain things, he'll probably have those conversations. But I think the standard for the organization is going to be lifted. We already see that with ticket sales and expectations. People are now talking Super Bowl, which we hadn't heard there in I don't know how many years. The work, guys are going to have to work because they're going to see it from him. If a guy going into his 21st year is working harder than guys in their third and fourth year, that's going to be a problem to Tom and, everybody else. So you're going to see the difference in a lot of different things, and it's a good thing, Rich.
Willie McGinest, my compadre and friend from NFL Network, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. I want to get into the why a little bit with you, Willie. I had Tom Curran of NBC Sports Boston, who's been covering the team from probably even back in your day as well. I had him on the show just hours after Tom Brady put out on the Instagram, on his Instagram post that he was leaving. And then the statement from Bill Belichick that read at the very end, sometimes in life it takes some time to pass before truly appreciating something or someone, but that has not been the case with Tom. He is a special person and the greatest quarterback of all time. Tom Curran said that somebody from Brady's camp, who he was talking to, said that if Belichick actually said that more in real time, that Brady might still be a Patriot potentially. How does that land with you, Willie?
That makes sense. I mean, Bill has a certain way about him and how he communicates and deals with people, and everybody is different. I think that's what makes the world go round. Everybody's different. Nobody's the same. And, sometimes players need to hear that more or need to experience that a little bit more. I think when you're in the moment, you don't like to go back and reminisce and talk about certain things or whatever the case may be, because you want to continuously find that grind and find that edge. But when you get to a certain point in any type of relationship, I think it's okay to tell a player or a coach, for that matter, hey, man, you did a great job. You're doing well. I appreciate you, the simple things that people exchange and talk. And I just think that things have been so the same for so long sometimes people get used to doing that, whether it's a coach or a player, and you forget some things like the little things matter. And I'm not necessarily sure that because, maybe Belichick didn't tell Brady every day how much he appreciates him and loves him and, thank him for all the opportunities he's put him in and vice versa. That's the reason why he's gone. I think there's other things that also played into that. But, in any type of marriage, any type of relationship, sometimes things run its course. And you got to find different ways to keep that relationship ignited. And, I just think that in this situation, Brady wanted to be there long term. I don't think that was an option. It didn't happen a year ago or whatever. And Brady probably came to a point where he said, you know what, maybe I need to go and venture out and try something different. New atmosphere, new coaching style, new team, and just to see what it feels like. And I think that's normal in life and anything.
So then why, because again, Robert Kraft said that if Brady wanted to be a Patriot, he would. Then why, if Tom did want to stay there long term, why didn't it happen? I mean, is it time that Belichick, you think, thought like I need to try something else? Let's move on. We did this, making sure he would retire as a Patriot at age 42, and if he wants to keep playing, we got to figure something else out, or what? Can you?
Well, what was the something else? I mean, we never saw an offer. When we were watching this whole thing happen, there was never an offer, not to my knowledge, or from just being a spectator. And you gotta. There's two sides when you negotiate, and you're trying to either stay or you're trying to keep a player. And I know a lot of times that in my situation, I didn't get an offer because they didn't want to disrespect me or want me to feel like that wasn't something that I was going to want. Kind of how it happened with Ty Law when he left with the Patriots, and it becomes a big thing and blows up. And sometimes when you're used to dealing with somebody for so long, you feel like, hey, you could just talk it out, make something happen, have an initial agreement, verbally or whatever, and it'll happen because you've dealt with each other so long with Brady and his representation. So, like I said, I wasn't in the room with those conversations. I just know if things, as far as a contract, probably would have been out there, we would have heard about it. I'm sure that they wanted Brady to stay. I'm not sure for how long. I think that's pretty interesting, and that's important, part. I know Brady, it was tough and emotional for him to pick up and leave somewhere he's been for 20 years. He's made history, and that history will never be duplicated in New England. So, I mean, it was tough on both sides, but I think, if they came together and had those conversations, it was a mutual understanding that they would part ways and go each other's way. I don't think you could put everything on one side.
Yeah, I don't think by any reporting, Ian Rappaport told me yesterday on the air live before, we switched chairs, Willie, on the Wednesday coverage, that the Patriots never did put something on the table, that they wanted to hear from Tom first, that he wanted to stay. And instead, obviously, we all know what happened. What do you think, Willie McGinest here on the Rich Eisen Show? What do you make of the report that Belichick was left a little shocked by Brady saying, "I'm leaving"? Does that make sense to you?
I'm not sure. I mean, maybe. Nobody expected, in Patriot country for that to happen. Everybody, including myself, thought that the Patriots would have the first shot at, signing Brady back. Now, remember, he's an unrestricted free agent.
Right.
So, with all these different free agents, teams have to submit an offer or to say, hey, this is what we think, this is what we want to do. The Chargers did it. The Bucs did it. I'm sure there's other teams that did it with Brady. They threw an offer out there. We kind of knew what those numbers were. As a coach, if you've been with somebody for so long, like I said, you're kind of used to the same routine. Maybe you are a little surprised if you think this player probably going to leave. But I would be shocked to say he was totally surprised. Bill Belichick is always prepared. I wouldn't say prepared for almost everything because you never know. You know, there's no rule book for certain things that happen in the league and, you know, certain situations that come up. But he's pretty prepared and pretty calculated. He's a smart guy, one of the smartest guys, even outside of football, I've ever met. So, you know, it was a little bit of a shock to all of us initially, but when you saw that he was content, when Tom was content with moving on, and you know, he was kind of excited by the possibilities of what was out there, then it kind of became a reality that he could leave.
Right.
And he did.
And then what do you think, Belichick, knowing him, unless you've spoken to him? Have you spoken to Bill or Tom in recent days?
I have not spoken to Bill.
Okay. But you have spoken to Tom?
We text. Of course we text, man.
Okay.
We text when it's not going on, you know.
Okay. And he must be over the moon, right? Ecstatic, excited.
He is. He's excited for the new opportunity. He's going to a competitive conference. He has a lot of respect for Drew Brees and Matt Ryan and Teddy Bridgewater, and he knows those are good teams. And if you know anything about Tom, which I know you do, you know a lot about him, Rich. He's very competitive.
Oh, yeah.
He loves a challenge, and that's what drives him. That's what's driven him his whole career. People telling him what he couldn't do. People said when he turned 38 and 40 what he couldn't do, and all he's done is go on to win championships and MVPs. So this is another chapter in his life, in his family's life, in his football life, and he's excited. He's excited.
And I don't know how deep you got into it with him. I imagine Arians had something to do with it, right? I mean, what do you glean excited him about Tampa? Willie?
Well, I think when you look at the personnel, Tom wants to win. I mean, this is not like a 5-year rebuild, right? So
right.
He wanted to also go somewhere where there was talent, you know, receivers, the offensive line. There's young ex-players on the staff that Brady played against that he can relate to.
It's amazing.
Arians has a great personality. He's the polar opposite of what Bill is, which is fine. You know, he's an offensive-minded coach, so I'm thinking when they scheme and they game plan with Byron Leftwich, all those things that come into play. Brady's IQ was very, very high, so I think Bruce Arians respects that, and Byron definitely understands and knows that. Brady's seen and played more football than Byron has, you know, in I don't know, in a few years. So we'll see how that plays out. But there's a lot of other pieces. You know, defensively, Todd Bowles, they got a lot of confidence in him and that defense.
Oh, yeah.
And seeing them make strides from last year. And they're just a couple of pieces away. I mean, we talk about the receivers and all that, but, you know, I'm sure other players are going to want to come to Tampa, or they're going to draft or do whatever they can to put the pieces needed around Tom to make sure he's successful.
I'm going to ask you a sports talk radio question that's going to put you on the spot, Willie. I'm going to do it. I'm just giving you that heads up.
Wow.
You can handle
Let's do it.
Okay. Next 3 years, I give you a choice of who wins the championship. More likely that who wins the championship first, Brady or Belichick? Your answer would be?
That's a good one.
Oh, yeah?
I'm going to say both. I'm going to say both because you didn't specify. You didn't say what type of championship.
First,
it's the AFC and the NFC championship. So they both could possibly win a championship, Rich. One in the AFC, one in the NFC. How about that?
Yeah, you know, it's like Tom saying I plead the fifth. It's pretty much what he's saying right there. It sounded like that's
plead the fifth.
There you go. Yeah.
What happens if they meet up in the Super Bowl?
Could you imagine this year?
They're in two different. I mean, one AFC, one NFC. It could possibly happen.
Well, in all honesty, Belichick has got that high IQ too, right? He's that competitive SOB too.
No question.
He is a guy who is hearing all this, and I don't think there's enough thumbtacks available or a bulletin board large enough for him to tack up for all the players that are still there, championship quality players that are still there. What do you think his plan for replacing Brady is? What do you think the plan B is? Willie, before I let you
I
go?
don't think you can replace a Tom Brady.
Of course.
think you can find a quarterback that suits the system and what you're trying to do.
Well, the question is it Stidham? Is he really going to go and just take lumps,
I don't know
start
if Stidham's
taking
ready.
lumps right now and growing pains, or does he get somebody that can actually get a fountain of youth or a second chance himself? Cam, Andy Dalton, Jameis, like that. Which direction do you think he might go in?
I think it could be any of those options. I think that Bill's going to bring in a guy, one that's going to take care of the football. That's why I kind of don't think it'll be a guy like Jameis Winston. Too many turnovers, and that's important in New England, taking care of the football. It's got to be somebody who's smart, who's tough, who's accurate, and, who can bring that leadership. It can't be a selfish guy to come into that locker room because that's not how the Patriots are built, and that's not what they've been able, to do in the last few, the last I don't know how many years. It's been about team first. It could possibly be a guy in the draft. Joe Thomas mentioned yesterday on air about, Jalen Hurts, a guy like that. If Bill sees this game changing a little bit, why not bring in somebody that can throw and move the pocket like a Russell Wilson or a Lamar Jackson, or somebody like that, and bring in a veteran for a couple years to, just to hold it down. As far as Stidham, I'm not sure if I've seen enough from him, enough playing time to say he's the guy or he has that experience. I know a lot of people talk, really well, really good about him, but I just haven't seen enough, so I don't know if he's ready. And the expectation is not just to get by in New England. It's championships. It's always been championships, whether we talked about it or not. So they're not going to be content with just bringing in somebody and just, throwing it out there. It's going to be somebody that knows and is willing to work and win and grasp the system and play at a high level.
Willie, you're the man. Thanks for the call. Take care of yourself, your family. Be healthy. Be safe.
You too, Rich. I appreciate you.
Right back at you. Right back at you. That's Willie McGinest. How about that one? What a great one. Jalen Hurts, you take him.
Yeah, buddy.
Does Bill know anybody that might have coached Jalen who he could call him up, chit-chat with?
I think he might know a guy.
I'm telling, that's a great one. I'd be all over that.
By the way,
I'm New England. I love that kid.
You could get Jalen Hurts in the second or third round.
No doubt. No doubt. You could sit there, take care of your first-round pick, and then hope, that he's still there in your second round or move up to get him. I love that kid. You know how I feel about him.
Tampa Bay,
That's
New
a good
England,
one.
Super Bowl.
That's a good one.
I don't know if Willie's just picking that out of thin air either.